Hello everyone, it's Dr. Shines Far with Unity Physical Therapy. Today let's talk about a pull progression that you can do after Achilles tendon repair so that you can get your calf stronger, faster, and work on your strength safely. The pull is an excellent way that you can begin to load your calf and Achilles earlier without overstressing it. A lot of this I've got inspired from by Dr. Charlton over at Cedars-Sinai. I was lucky enough to get my Achilles tendon repaired by him. Since then, I've instructed all my patients to do this with their Achilles tendon repair in conjunction with their land exercises. This way they can get back to doing those single leg heel raises, get their calf stronger, and hopefully return to sports sooner without overstretching the Achilles tendon. Let's dive in. So first off, why is this so helpful? Well, the pool is an excellent way for us to start beginning some exercises because the water takes the effect of gravity off. This allows us to do a modified version of the heel raises, which is fundamental to this Achilles tendon rehab. However, for the first 12 weeks, that's a little aggressive to do on dry land. So this pool is a nice supplement you can do in conjunction with some easier land exercises so that you can get back to doing those single leg heel raises on dry land down the road. And the other nice thing about the pool is we can control how challenging the exercise is based on how deep we are in the water. If we are in the water up to our neck level, this makes some of those exercises easier, and obviously as we get more advanced, we can progress down to having the water closer to our waist level, mimicking more of the effects of doing it on dry land. At neck depth, you're just using a small percentage of your body weight, but as the water gets closer to your waist level, it's becoming more and more close to what it's like on dry land. By starting these exercises in the pool, it allows us to work on that calf activation early on, minimize some of the calf atrophy that happens after the surgery, improve some of our ankle motion, work on our walking mechanics, build some confidence in that ankle, all without straining the Achilles tendon too much. So when can you begin this? Well, this really largely depends on how well your incision is healing, and you should make sure you're getting cleared by your surgeon before you do so. We want to make sure that incision is fully closed, there's no draining, there's no scabs opening up, so that you're cleared by your surgeon to do so, because we do not want to do this too early and risk an infection. An infection in that Achilles tendon is very deleterious, meaning can really make the outcomes worse, so we want to be very safe and not jump into the pool too quickly. If you're not sure, play it safe, but if you are cleared by your surgeon, the sooner we can get you working on this calf activation, the better. Another note before you start, at the beginning you're only going to do up to 15 minutes. This allows us to A, not overstress the tendon, and B, even if the incision is closed, that scar isn't super matured, and we don't want to get to that level where our fingers and toes get pruny, because if that happens to our scar, it might not let the scar mature and again can lead to infection and scar weakening. So at the beginning, no more than 15 minutes max per session. Make sure your scar and incision looks good, there's no redness spreading, and you're not super sore. If that looks good, what you can do is you can do 15 minutes, get out of the pool, rest, dry off, and go again later in the day or later in that session. And secondly, in the early phase of your Achilles tendon rehab, for not just your pool exercises, but your land exercises, I think these heel wedges are very helpful. I have these thick ones I got from Amazon that are rubber, so that way they can sink to the bottom, and also such that the rubber doesn't get affected by the water. This will allow you to load your Achilles tendon without stretching it, because stretching our Achilles tendon too soon can help accelerate some of that tendon lengthening and create some permanent weakness. So especially in the first 3 months, we are very cautious, and sometimes even up to 6 months, we're still a little cautious because we absolutely don't want to stretch that tendon too quickly. So make sure you get some heel wedges for your pool exercises, because unfortunately too, sometimes the pools are slanted up, so that if you're facing the wall, which you're going to need for support, it might be putting too much stretch on your tendon early on. Now we're going to get into the progression, but just so you know, there's really 4 ways we can progress these exercises. First, as I've mentioned before, the more shallow we progress into the water, the more weight our Achilles tendon has to work. So early on, we'll be working neck deep, and slowly we'll progress till that the water is getting lower and lower and going more towards our waist. Secondly, we can start some exercises on both feet, but then eventually progress to our single leg, especially our surgical side. Thirdly, we'll start with wedges to really protect the range of motion, just working on that last little bit of plantar flexion. This is actually where people are the most weak, so the more time we spend there is very good. And lastly, at the beginning, we'll just do some heel raises, but eventually we're going to get to jumping and plyometrics in the pool. So first off, it's your first day in the pool. Make sure you have a buddy with you to help you get in and out of the pool safely. We don't want to put weight on that foot, especially as we're getting in and out. And what you're going to go ahead and do is take those 2 heel wedges, put them down, let them sink to the bottom. And if you or your friend can help stack them on top of each other, so that way when you're neck deep in the pool, because that's where you're going to start, your surgical leg will just rest on those heel wedges, and it'll be in that end range toe point, meaning it's safe and we're good to go. From there, make sure you put your hands on the wall for balance, and that way it can also help you with a little bit of support. And what you're gonna do is do the heel raise on both legs and with your hands. This way your surgical leg really is coming along for the ride. We're gonna start working on pushing But the nice thing is with the heel wedge is A, we're not putting any stretch on it, and B, we're gonna use our other leg in our hands to really do most of the work. As I get easier, you can A, go down a little bit lower, or B, you can start shifting more weight onto that single leg. When you're doing this, you really wanna make sure that you're doing a nice squeeze at the top. We're not going rapid or bouncing on our heels at this point. We're going nice and slow, getting a good squeeze in our calf, coming back down. As always with all of these, we're really focused on feeling the muscles in your calf pump, not so much a strain in your Achilles tendon. If you feel like you're feeling strain in the Achilles tendon, you want to do two things. One, regress to a lighter level. B, make sure you're using your heel wedges properly so we're not putting any strain or stretch on the tendon. We really just want to stay at the level that we feel our calf working and getting tired and no extra strain on the tendon. I tell people to go for 30 reps, and if that starts getting easy and you can do 30, 40, 50 reps without much challenge, that's when you're going to start letting the water get a little bit lower and have more challenge. As always, when we progress to a lower level of the water, please first start with both feet to make sure you can do it nice and comfortably. Then you can shift a little bit more weight onto the surgical side until you can do it single leg. You're going to keep that progression really until the water gets to about waist height. Now the next phase, and this is always when you're deemed by your surgeon and your physical therapist to add a little bit more mobility, is repeating that same sequence but now with one heel wedge. You're going to have more range of motion, so that calf will get more fatigued, but we don't want to do this too early on because, like I mentioned before, we don't want to overstretch that Achilles tendon. So same progression, you're neck deep in the pool, starting with both legs down. Once that gets easy, shift a little bit more weight to the single leg side, and then eventually you're just doing it all on your surgical leg. And then you can slowly get more and more shallow so the water is closer towards your waistline, always starting with both legs first, and then doing single leg until you can do about 30 to 50 reps single leg waistline. And then eventually, again, when cleared by your surgeon and PT, you're gonna scrap the heel wedges and do this flat-footed. This is where the range of motion will be the most. Same thing, starting neck deep and then progressing down towards the waist. Now, generally around the 6-month mark of the Achilles tendon rehab is when some protocols allow us to work on plyometric. But what I'll do is around that time, a little earlier, a little later, again, depending on everyone's rehab, we'll start initiating some plyometrics in the pool. Again, this allows us to do it with less gravity so we can start prepping ourselves for success on dry land. This can help reduce impact, too much strain, slow us down so we build really good mechanics and form and build confidence before we get to doing it on dry land. So here's a progression that I've come up with inspired by Dr. Charlton. Again, we're always gonna start this with the water at neck deep. First thing you're gonna do is go on both toes and add a little bit extra so your feet come off the ground. And then when you land, you're gonna stick it on the ball of your feet. This way we know that we're getting some good control before we're progressing. So it's gonna be rocking on your toes, a little hop, and then sticking it on the balls of your feet. Now you can go ahead and start making the amplitude of that little hop a little bit bigger. But first we're gonna always make sure that when we land, we're gonna stick on the balls of our feet versus just collapsing our heels down. Once we get nice and comfortable with that, then we can work on going from the balls of our feet to rocking our heels back, almost like we're normal landing, and then make that motion fluid and fluid. And then from there, what we can also do is some double-legged bouncing, so that we're on both toes, we're kind of bouncing. I'll tell people to start and just try sticking at the top of their feet, and then as they get comfortable later, you can start progressing to making the bounce a little bit more range of motion. Again, always start neck deep, there should be no strain, and then as it gets easier, we can progress to more shallower and shallower. From now, we're gonna start introducing single leg, but what we're first gonna do is a single leg takeoff. Our surgical side will take off, but then we're gonna land with both feet. This way we can control the landing, make sure we're nice and safe. So you'll do a single leg heel raise with a little extra so that you hop off. Then you're gonna have your other foot also match the ground and catch, and again, land on your toes first, making sure we have good control before we start rocking our heels back. Once that gets better, you can go from your toes and slowly rock your heels down. We're taking off on our surgical leg, we're landing on both feet, we're starting on our toes and slowly rocking down to our heels. And then you can increase the speed of that landing going from toe to heel little by little. And then now you're gonna do the same thing with single leg takeoff, and that same side will do the landing. So you'll do your surgical leg, you're gonna take off, a little baby hop, and then you're gonna land on that side in a toe point. And then when that gets easy, you're gonna slowly go from landing in that toe point to letting your heel come down. And then lastly would be single leg hopping. So this is where you're just going on that one leg, hopping off that toe, almost like you're doing jump rope, but just on one leg. Again, always start neck deep. I can't emphasize it enough. We don't want to overstrain it. First, you can test it out, and if it feels really easy, then you can go more and more shallow. With all these, we want soft, quiet landings. We don't want to have any jerky movements. We want the majority of the work in the calf muscle, not some strain in the tendon. So again, like I said before, if you start feeling your tendon is getting cranky, back off. Go back a level. Go to the level that you feel your calf muscle getting really tired, but not strain in the tendon. Also, if you notice some soreness in the Achilles tendon spikes the next day, and especially if it doesn't get better the more you warm it up, definitely talk with your physical therapist about maybe going back a level, because we might be doing too much strain early on. I hope that video is very helpful for you guys. The pool was very helpful for me after my Achilles tendon repair, and like I said before, I've recommended it to all my patients since then. I think it's a wonderful tool for working on that calf strength early on, and I can't emphasize it enough. Let's do it. Let's do it safely. Let's make sure that incision is healed, and let's progress appropriately. If you have any questions or comments, please add them below. And if you're in the Los Angeles area looking for a physical therapist, you can see me at Unity Physical Therapy. You can look up the website, unityphysicaltherapy.com. You can go to our social media at UnityPTLA, and I hope to see you on the next video.